So good morning to everybody. Good morning, Abir. Here we are back with our second sequel of the Idea Labs series. There's a lot happening around, and we thought, let's choose a Saturday morning and just, have a good discussion over a cup of coffee in terms of saying, how are we progressing with our Idea Labs sessions. So, Abir, how has been the days for you, and maybe what are you seeing around? A lot of ideas floating in the social media, in the print, in the television, and I'm sure we're all inundated with ideas and ideas. So what's going on? And maybe you can talk about a little more on Idea Labs and the company as well.
Good morning, Kaushik. And yes, it's a very sunny Saturday morning, and we are very excited to have this session with you. Yes, there's a lot of ideas that are being floating around, and people are working on them. Today, India is becoming a hotbed of ideas because of the huge, issues that are happening around, and innovation is the only way to keep us going, keep us moving. And so there are so many startups working on it, and there are so many companies also who are innovating every time. So this is a very good time for an innovative company to, bring out some changes in the way the customer is also changed. He's more open to new things, and that's how we are finding it very exciting to talk to a lot of companies on innovation. Since we are all digitally connected, this is also a good time where there is no physical requirement of meeting, and people are available and they do give us timings. So basically, today we are here to discuss about a program called the Idea Labs. We have done this program before, and again today we are meeting. The Idea Labs, as we may recall, is a service line that Idea Factory is offering for innovation, and to discuss openly with companies on innovation and new ideas, and see how it can bring about some change in the way companies do business, and how it can solve bigger problems like job creation, economic growth, and all the other issues that the country is facing today. Today we are here to discuss a typical company which is on the financial services, which is started as a broking house about 15 years back, and when they and gradually diversified into many areas, from broking to financial services to technology in the financial services, and slowly maneuvering itself and going into agri commodity exchange trading, agriculture, then warehousing, pharma, jewelry, and a whole lot of services. Today, in 15 years, they have formed about 14 companies, and today no more. They are only broking companies. So they are, in terms of presence, they are not only present in India, they are in Mauritius, they are in UK, and truly growing very, very fast. They have been noticed, and they have got a lot of awards in the recent time. They've definitely fallen in the SME category. Even today, they are not a company which is very large and big, but definitely fall in the SME category. But they are growing very fast and doing, great, on for their own. But at the same time, the entrepreneur is young, and he's a first generation, and he's not happy with the growth. So today we would like to discuss the fact that he feels that when we're talking to the entrepreneur, he feels that whatever the growth is happening, he's not happy with the growth. He wants the growth to happen further. So maybe Kaushik, you can highlight a bit more about the case that we are discussing today.
I think you said it all. It's a young founder, and started with a very hands-on young, a boy growing up, and then getting into stocks, uh, creating some early wealth, and then there's a lot of entrepreneurial spirit in the boy who then grows up and forms a business out of it. And I think the founder has done fantastically well in terms of his core business and created additional wealth. And whatever opportunities came in the way, how did this one company per year almost happen? Is, I think when we were speaking to him, it was like something took him to the opportunity that way. Commodities came as a natural choice, right? there's certain requirement of rolling out some of the medicinal values, and so pharma came as an opportunity. And so likewise, so somebody who is obviously, tasted early wealth creation, but is not stopping out here. The ambition is to grow beyond and create a diversified set of value. He often prides himself in terms of investment being a portfolio, and that's where I think he would like to see his business, the journey also to be a portfolio of diversified conglomerates. Yeah, and so a bit about Idea Factory, for some of our viewers, who may be new to this edition. So you had gone and created Idea Labs with a vision a couple of years back, and then you wrote a book, and then here is this line of service called Idea Factory. So a little brief of what is it all about?
Actually, yes, maybe we are talking about the Idea Factory in every video. The Idea Factory is a strategy training and consulting firm that is being made, and we are trying to bring innovation at the center point of growth of India, and hopefully for the rest of the world. Because innovation, we feel that innovation is the sure short way of growing a business and taking it to the world class level. In India, there has been innovation going on all along, and of course, but today India is a hotbed of global competition, and most of the foreign companies have come with their global research into India, and perhaps India is not being able to cope up with the research that is being done worldwide, because India has never been very strong in long-term big type innovations, and so we are somehow dependent on the research and development of the world economies, and somehow we are taking what they are giving. So perhaps this is a humble attempt, to bring innovation at the center of business growth, so that we can build ourselves as thinkers and product designers, and also business model innovation. And hopefully this is going to make India a very stronger power. So Idea Factory has I would say, a very global ambition. But today we are taking baby steps at a time, and through these baby steps we hope that we can bring about some change. In terms of this, I think, Kaushik, let's go back to the Idea Labs now, and we go back to the case study a bit more. Kaushik, can you tell us a little bit about the what is the process that we are taking in terms while we are evaluating the Idea Labs, or evaluating this company? What is the framework or the process that we are taking today?
Yeah, so Abir, I think one thing we are very clear is we are not coming from a know-it-all scenario. We are not consultants, saying that, hey, the founder, we know everything about your financial services industry. We know something about jewelry and pharma as well. No, we are facilitators following a process where we are aiding the journey of the founder and his team, sort of to get into a conversation, a collaborative conversation in a very thought-provoking and safe place where we are not judging each other. Everything is pretty candidly coming up. And so the first phase that we talk about, is hey, can you bring all the problems on the table? Now that's easier said than done. So this is where we, through a conversation and a facilitation, storytelling and questions, is where we sort of try to uncover some of the problems that anyway are stated. For example, the stated problem the founder says is, my business has not been growing for the last 2 years. And that's not the way it was the previous 5 years. And while that's a statement, that's a symptom, that's possibly the outcome of a set of a problem. So we then obviously go into asking this set of questions as to why do you feel that's not happening. And maybe there are areas in terms of the landscape of investment and broking has changed. There are a lot more knowledgeable investors. They are empowered. 5 years before, they used to entrust to a set of broker as an expert, but I think today, ghar ghar mein expert hai. So the role of of this organization now possibly is one of the things that we need to change. Maybe the set of opportunities or products that you are creating. Uh, Earlier it was maybe just the equity part of it. You got commodities, you got in commodities also there were certain things that you got added. There are newer forms of wealth creations. There are crypto that are coming. There is a problem that do I have the sufficient product which my current generation of customers would really be, if they find it relevant, they find it intriguing, and they find it worth enough to try, right? If I'm doing all of this, one of the problem that possibly was being talked about is I started with my known circle, and then there were people who referred, and so the growth has been pretty organic. So how do I put an engine where I become a lighthouse? I become the expert of all that is happening in global investments and trades, and I amplify my brand to the extent where people are able to see. So to cut short, I think this is a process where we sort of the catchment where we hear the symptoms, the outcome, but then we go deep in terms of getting all the problems, and then we pick up one of the problem, right? Okay, and then get into a further piece of little creative enablement where again it is more in terms of motivating and experimenting and say, okay, if you were to add one more product to the portfolio, and if you were to shift the current operations process of phone call booking this piece, and booking a stock, and reporting the journey of the stock, what do you see are the changes? So this is where the phase where uh, by the time both teams have developed enough rapport and trust, where there's enough motivation to sort of experiment with some of these ideas, and saying that, hey, I think the first change that what that is possible could be this, and then getting into the phase where we take some of these problems into a stage of a solutioning, and that is where we apply a lot of creative. If this crypto has to be added, a lot of it is going into the crypto exchange mode. Now, is there another way that we can get it where we abide with the laws of the land, but we make it more appealing? We integrate with our existing services. So that is the solutioning piece of innovation. And based on whatever as a final outcome that is being taken, we then scale. Okay, let's pledge. Let's act on these ideas. Without an action, there is no innovation that's going to happen. And then also act with investment of the right time and resource. If we need to make sure that in my conglomerate, in my other business units, I've been possibly doing a little family grown, owner driven piece. And if there is a requirement of getting a little professional assistance or professional leadership out here, can I be acting at this stage to take the ideas that came up through the process of imagination, creativity, and innovation to a scale of execution at certain levels, and obviously then come and say that what is the outcome that is happening. And it's not that all the ideas that come through this process, when executed, some will give excellent results, some may not give results, but at least we know that we have taken the journey of a product, of marketing, of people, of process, and there are certain things that seems to be working. And this is where you change the status quo. This is where the inertia of change that mostly plagues owner-driven businesses. And maybe there's certain of the owners founder syndrome, that this is the way धंधा ऐसे ही होता है, पहले भी हुआ है और ऐसे भी होगा. Those gets a little shaken by himself, and our role still remains as somebody who facilitates this change, taking the team of the founder and his immediate team also through a process, so that it is seamless, it is collaborated, it is trusted, it is not being seen as imposed upon, and so there is a higher propensity of the willingness and the motivation, the inspiration to to try this out, to persist with some of these actions before we call it works or doesn't work. So Abir, if we may be talking about, the specific case, what do you see as a set of problems, and, I mean, following on this process, maybe you can just take the discussion that you had with the conversation that you had with the teams a little forward on this framework.
Right. Thank you, Kaushik. I think we will go a bit more specific on the case after this discussion with you. So let me share the screen, because there are certain things that are already there. So that's 1 minute. Right. Okay. So typically we are now, going deeper into the case study of this particular company, and we are following something called a TINA ceiling framework, which is essentially a simple framework of a 4-stage of imagination, creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. So these 4 stages are actually in sequence. So from imagination, you go into the creativity zone, to innovation, and then to entrepreneurship. And these are the overall scoping of the aspects of the 4 stages. While as you have already said, at the imagination stage, we do a lot of free thinking, and from there we pull down all the problems that a company is facing at the current moment. And from there we go into the short list, 1 or 2 big problems that is creating the biggest impact in the company, and then slowly move into the solution mode. So at the innovation stage, we are trying to offer solutions to the problems that have been identified. And once we offer the solutions and they have kind of passed the test of a little bit of results in terms of a pilot project or something, we will scale it up to a bigger level and operationalize the whole solution aspect of it. And that is the stage of the entrepreneurship. So imagination, creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Now there is typically it's a long-term roadmap. So if you ask me the timeline, I think it should vary anywhere between 2 to 3 months to 6 months. Okay, and hopefully, but that will give a huge benefit to the company in terms of improving. Coming specifically to this case, wherein we were talking, and there's a lot of while we identified a lot of problems of the company, while as I told you at the beginning that the company is making a lot of presence felt within the nation as well as outside the nation, but at the same time no company is without problems. So when you brainstorm, definitely there will be certain number of problems that will creep up, and one of the major problems which we have dealt with is the stagnation and business growth. Other than that, there are smaller problems, like, for example, the company is not so much present in India. So its India presence is kind of slightly low. Its brand awareness is also kind of slightly low. And perhaps these are some of the reasons why, and of course, there are too many rules and regulations that it has to follow, because it's operating in India, it is operating in UK, it is operating in Mauritius, and hopefully that might create a bit of lacking the freedom of the company in that sense. Having said that, we have identified stagnation in business growth as the main problem, or maybe the first problem to tackle, and that we have drilled down to 2-3 elements, as we can see over here, which is definitely the low revenue and the profitability growth. Of course, if there is some stagnation after 15 years, when the company is not growing to the extent that it wants to, obviously there is a certain amount of stagnation in terms of revenue and profitability growth. And as we told you, the branding is also kind of weak. It has not been able to invest heavily on the branding part of it. And also the investments that they are doing, the returns are coming very slow. So in the whole process, what happens? While we tackle these questions, these are some of the solutions that we came up, and these solutions are kind of very, as you rightly said, these are very preliminary solutions without extracting too much of details from the company, because we have not perhaps reached the stage where we are privy to a lot of information within the company. So this is largely based on public information and 1 or 2 talks with the entrepreneur team. So one of the things that we felt was that the core competence has been largely trading. while they have already diversified, they want to position themselves as a diversified group, and they have already ventured into 2, 3 areas which are non-related to trading. So here in a fundamental question is that what is our core competence? What is your core competence today and tomorrow? If trading is your core competence, should you venture into other areas? And if you're venture into other areas, do you redefine yourself as to this is my core area to that? Okay. So towards secondly, also there are, as we said, as you rightly said, there is about 14 companies within that framework, and these 14 companies are within 15 years. So basically, it's like one company a year. So putting a lot of effort on all these companies all along, we've told them to, put a strong, slow focus on about 4 or 5 companies and out of the 14 and see, bring results into them and then go to the next step. So putting a bit of a focus on that is more important. Secondly, I think the bit of a focus on the core values is very important, because now we are going to dreaming big. So at this point, this is a good time to identify core values at a time when you are positioning yourself, you're branding yourself. So the brand is very much connected to the core values. So it's important to define or redefine your core values at this point in time, and also because you, identify some low hanging high growth areas, which could be trading, because trading has been the traditional forte of the company, and put that into action quickly. Okay, so that you see results on these select areas, and then gradually take that as a success and then go to the next level. Okay, so while we scale up, of course these are the points that are getting extended on the scale up model. Of course, from core competence, we want to build a sustainable business differentiator, which is you have to decide whether you want to be remain on the trading space, or whether you want to be an overall business differentiate diversified group. So identify a kind of a differentiator where people can identify you with, because only starting a company or not putting your own strength area in the whole product communication will not take you very far. As we also told you, since you are focusing on very strong only a few SBUs, the profitability of those 3 or 4 SBUs are very important. So while we focus on the 4 SBUs, the profitability of these units is very important. It could be the your finance business, or also the non-finance business, either of the two, but the profitability of that zone is very important. And then you go to a larger brand communication, which is will take the care of the core values, and position yourself as one company with a unique positioning in the market. And as far as growth is concerned, there are to be graded products, because while we are in the stock markets, we know there are investors of all sizes. There are very small investors, and there are the very big ticket corporate investors. Okay, so if you want to capture the whole gamut, you'll have to break it up into the B2B segment as well as the retail segment. And even the retail segment, there are people who are investing less amount of money. There are people who will be more. So there will be a multi-graded, product plan or offerings that should go out either to the retail segment or to the B2B segment. So put together, that the customers, we have a huge choice to choose from. But remember, keeping our high growth or the growth of the company in mind, we might offer maybe 5 programs initially, and if this yield results, then we go to the next 5 programs. I think that's a very sensible way of ramping up your business over a period of time. Continuing the discussion to the next slide, I think there are some more points that are coming up. Yes, because this automatically leads to your an overall vision for the next 5 years. Because now, as we see ourselves, and this while company is growing, it is important to move towards a storyline, and that storyline has to be at least a 5-year vision storyline. So that's very important. Also, as we have already covered the multi-graded plans, this company is also at a unique position, because very quickly, without being a very big national player, they have a multi-country presence, and that has given them a lot of learning. Okay, so that perhaps put them in a good position to maybe launch a global fund across these markets where they are present, and make it available to the retail investor or the business investor. So even if one economy is not doing well, you can hedge or dive, you can hedge your risk, and invest in that other economy and give the returns to them. So these, since they have already know that trading is their main strength area, they can actually leverage that strength area to give some very good results to the customer. Okay, so I think overall these are the kind of thoughts that are coming to it, to my mind. Kaushik, you can just add to it and maybe give us some thoughts on the measurables of this exercise.
Yeah, so what I like about this framework, Abir, and what clients like about it also is it sort of gives a clarity of, where am I and where do I belong to, the space, and what is the big value that I bring to my customers, and what is possibly, my new reality as an organization. And I think you touched upon this piece of purpose, or a core value. Why do I exist? And so typically in this case, I think what is coming up is, can I help a certain set of my buyers? And obviously that's the target segment. It could be the young buyers, 20 to 30 years, who have just started, investing, are more aware of creating wealth early in life. Can I help them, grow their wealth through integrity, maybe through ethics, through compliance? And I think that's core, because that sort of sets a lot of connotations to how would you like to also communicate your messaging, whether it's in terms of brand intimacy, whether it's terms of demand generation, because that's what today's buyers would also love to be investing their time and money into. So there is this clarity that comes. There is also a purpose that sets in, and that sort of puts a plan. And the plan is around strategy. Am I in the right business model? Maybe around structure. So a lot of the conversation then also had come into in terms of, is that we need to reorg ourselves if we need to support this sort of a segment or that sort of a product specifically. Is it if content is king and a lot of awareness has to be there, because anyway the customer today is interacting with me with one single 5-inch retail space called the mobile phone. What is that I can do in terms of engagement? So if I need to engage, I need to regularly churn out knowledge nuggets and be in touch with my customer. Do I really have somebody in the team focusing and looking on that part of it? Because no matter investing uh, good dollars in marketing may just be putting your brand visible, but finally you need to be engaged with this brand on a frequent basis, to educate the buyer with new ideas and perspectives. So structure is something that is important. Uh, Even for the existing team, is my process something that needs to be relooked at, which is the operations part of it? Are my guys today enabled? Are there? How does decision happens in this organization? And obviously, a lot of family business and owner-driven businesses, we see that there is a little centralized mode sort of a thing, and I think that's a change that is pretty difficult to sort of suddenly say, hey, I would like to put professionals, and obviously this create an empowerment all across. No decisions should, not all decisions should be pointing towards me as a hub and spoke. And so that piece of enablement needs a lot of coaching to the founder as well, to say that we love your growth mindset, but for growing you also need to be freeing up some of your operational overloads of decisions which otherwise are pretty periodic, pretty mundane, and pretty much predictable. Can you go ahead and sort of create an empowerment and decentralized decision making out there? Uh, there are certain things like purpose, values, culture of the organization, because as team members, I think we have seen that uh, if I am an organization driven by ethics, by compliance, by integrity, then the whole team follows the leader in terms of soaking in this culture, and the way we message, we interact, we talk to our customers. That sort of comes in, and that supports the brand, because you may talk into your brand and say, hey, this is the most safest trading house in this part of the globe, but then your actions on ground has to be completely compliant. So I think culture is an important piece that also puts in out here. capabilities, and that is where if certain things has to be done differently, so there's a need to rescale, right? I don't know, I mean, the way a buyer bought 5 years before is not the same way. So my way of customer services, operations handling has to be changed. So there is a bit of the training part of it that is required. And even when I recruit new talent, I need to be now very clear as to what sort of a talent that I should be recruiting. So, there is this little all-encompassing piece around of the plan, touching, structures, touching strategy, enablement, maybe motivations, cultures, trainings, capabilities, and even recruitment. So this is a little holistic plan. And when that plan comes, then it is in terms of how do I make the organizational leaders accountable for this piece. And that's the last phase of the framework, which is where you entrepreneurially take up that solution idea into scale. If you need to rehaul the process, who is the process owner? Is he or she accountable to make this happen? The way she wants to drive it, and then the rest of the organization also works or collaborates with the process owner on making shift of that part of it. Similar for the other owners, that would come out as a part of the plan. So looks to be taking the organization and the leader from a current state to a new reality. So this process is helping us to envision the new reality for him, showing him the impact of how the current state is and what could be a cost of no change versus a cost of change. And also, giving the ingredients through this process of creative imagination and collaboration. So yeah, I love the process, Avi. Uh, Talking about some of the measurables part of it, no, there are certain things that will happen pretty soon. So if we say that, hey, we just need to come back and say out of my 14 companies, how many of it are ready to be professionally managed SBUs, and let's put a plan and come back onto this, even before we commit to a business plan for all the SBUs. Now, so a leading indicator of the success is if we said that within the next 30 days, we'll come back and say, this is how my 14 ranked, this is worthy to be professionalized, ready to be professionalized, can be tagged as an SBU, this is not yet ready. So the first indicator is, are we taking enough action to even create that first list? The next set of indication obviously is to say, if we have to write a business plan with those selected 5 companies, with a professional, leading those businesses, have we done that? And that is a second phase of measurable, that are we doing what we are saying? And then obviously once that happens, then in terms of how the business plan gets rolled out is a lagging indicator of a success, right? That then obviously we then pick up some of the pilot projects. We measure the outcome from not just revenue, not just profits, but in terms of, are we acquiring more new customers specific to our targets? Right? Are we? It can even get operational in terms of, is my app getting a sufficient number of clicks and downloads? Right. It can even be in terms of customer experience. How many support tickets that are coming up, and how fast am I resolving them? And so the measurable pieces will again be first to measure my intent of even moving to the next piece, and then obviously when those pieces are implemented, a measurable piece of what is the desired outcome in terms of key performance indices of adding customers, selling premium products, maybe the time to acquire a customer, in my savings in terms of the business that I am doing, so on and so forth. And so that is where we co-create those KPIs. Once we know that out of the 14, these are the 5 which are getting rolled into a consolidated business planning for 3 years. The first 3 months is the KPI looks to be more on implementing, and then the next 6 months KPI, 6, 9, 12 months, we actually get into the KPIs of results and performance. So that's the way we would like to approach this article. Yeah. So yeah, I think pretty good conversation, Abid, so far, and Anything that you'd like to add on to the results, with your own experience, because it's it's easy to talk about change, but it's extremely difficult to, uh, you know, even after one admits that change is inevitable and that change is the one that is going to, keep me in business with my customers. The practice of change is pretty difficult to have, and especially with owners and founders and any adult professionals, including you and me. I think change is something that is difficult to implement. So your quick observations on your change management in this scenario.
Right. Kaushik, I think you have covered almost major 95% of what we are trying to communicate. There's not much to add to it, excepting the fact that while we talked about ideas, while we talked about Idea Lab, it is very important to take it to a measurable finish line. Okay, so the whole process of us is, not only to generate but also to take it to a measurable finish line within a reasonable time frame, and that could be anywhere between 3 to 6 months. I really can't predict. It will vary from a case to case basis, and that will actually define the journey of the ideation process in this particular company. For example, if we take an early success, if we take at least pick up 3 ideas and then bring some success on the table within the next 3 months or 4 months, I mean that will give a lifeline to the new things that we are planning to drive in the organization. Okay, so that being, because it is always success driven, everything is success driven until and unless you bring in some early successes in the whole process in terms of revenues and profitability both. Of course, we will not be able to sustain the momentum of the ideation process that we have started. So herein is a small, flow chart wherein we are actually taking ideas to the revenue process and profitability process. And we hope that when we take this, this will give the required lifeline for a continuous process of ideation, which we maybe we can start the process. But as you rightly said, there has to be a process and ecosystem or stakeholder participation. So obviously, it has to be a momentum that is all across its particular organization. In this case, this diversified finance company. Okay, so having done that, I think while we start up there, it would, we hope that these kind of measurable milestones will give the required momentum to this organization for a sustainable, result-driven innovation process. And perhaps that is what the Idea Factory wants, or wants to play a role in bringing companies out of their existing levels. Okay, so our success will lie on these, ideation to measurement to success, and maybe that's how we would be able to add value to organization. So more or less, I think it's almost along the same lines that you said. It's a whole piece. It talks about people, it talks about process, talks about stakeholders, it talks about customers. The whole ecosystem gets involved as soon as you try to bring about some change. And initially people will be resistant to change because there are money involved, there are roles that are will change, and the customer may not like what you are doing for the first time. But then if it's worthwhile, we must keep on doing it till we reach the success. And that's what how things have changed in this world. Everywhere, if things have changed, it has been because of the dogged consistent persistence of people over days, months, years to ultimately to see the success. And then ultimately the customer says, yes, this is much better than what we have, what we used to handle. So they can take both the products or both the services in hand and see distinctive difference or improvement on the final product vis-a-vis the older version. So I think that's where the challenge of Idea Factory, the Idea Lab, and also when we work with the company, their own internal challenges will come into place. I think that's what I am also, agreeing or trying to put a, uh, whole picture in the whole process. I think this is what we are trying to, okay, and I think hopefully we are going to able to replicate, we will be replicating these kind of mechanisms or frameworks to various companies in future, now that we have introduced this as a service line from April onwards. So obviously we will be interacting with companies, and hopefully this method or approach that we have taken will see further improvement, revision, and fine tuning, and hopefully in the future videos we will be able to share some results as well. I think with that, let's wrap up this discussion. And I thank Kaushik for all his dedication and the team that has worked behind to help us build up this, and also the support from the companies that we have interacted in uh, moving the Ideas Lab concept forward in India. And we thank everybody, and we hope we will interact with more and more companies in the near future. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Abir. I think a great conversation, and hope to again recreate the next one in the series. Until then, let's stay safe, and let's ensure that people all around us are also safer than before. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.